Good morning, everyone. I hope we've all had our coffee and we are energized to hear from our speakers for today. This is a symposium on crypto and the social life of crypto, especially Philippine perspectives. This is brought to you by Aarhus University and the University of the Philippines Diliman, as well as we would like to acknowledge the help of the Office of Research and Publication of CMC and, of course, the UP Diliman College of Media and Communication. I would first like to acknowledge some friends and colleagues. We are being covered by BIP Pinas. Hello. And we have friends from the Philippine Institute for Development Studies, colleagues from De La Salle University, and Ateneo de Manila University. Welcome, everyone. Good morning. So without further ado, I think we're all excited to hear from our speakers today. I would like to welcome, to open the program, the Dean of the College of Media and Communication, Professor Josa Labiste.
Good morning, everyone. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. This is actually a speech of our Associate Dean, Lucia Tangi, supposed to be here, but for some reasons, just another assignment. And so she gave me the speech, and I'm not supposed to be here, but for some reasons, I'm here. So I don't know. So good morning, everyone. Guests, colleagues, fellow scholars, it's a pleasure to welcome you to this gathering. As we turn our attention to the subject is both timely and transformative, the social life of cryptocurrency seen through the lens of the Philippines or viewed to the Philippines perspective. Much of the discourse, the global discourse on crypto has been dominated by its technological and financial dimension. In other words, technological deterministic discourse of blockchains, blockchain architectures, market volatility, and regulatory frameworks. So yet as scholars and practitioners of communication and media, we recognize that crypto is not merely a technical innovation. It's a social phenomenon reshaping our communities' imagine, value, trust, and participation in the economic life of our country. In the Philippines, this conversation acquires a particular distinctiveness or even urgency. Our country's vibrant diasporic networks, entrepreneurial spirit, and adaptive use of digital platforms made us a fertile ground for examining how crypto interest intersects with labor and migration, remittances, and grassroots economies, or we call it the underground economy. At the same time, questions of equity, governance, and sustainability demand that we critically assess who gains from this, who is excluded, and how these technologies reconfigure social relations and community lives. This forum invites us to move beyond abstractions of code and currency and instead foreground lived experiences, cultural practices, and institutional challenges by situating crypto within the context of the Philippines or its realities. We contribute not only to the knowledge, academic knowledge, and the scholarship, but also the policy debates and public understanding of this phenomenon. So, medyo dapat may ambag ako. Interested in the semiotics of cryptocurrency. It's not just an abstraction, but it's also part of the realities of our lives and the meanings that are generated from it. When we think about crypto, we think we can go back to Marx capital. Remember the formula CMC and MCM, and all this I think could be revealed in the cryptocurrency, and especially how it is embraced or how it is connected with the lives of Filipinos. So I'm not going to dwell in more in that, but just encourage you all to engage in this morning's forum with openness, rigor, and imagination, and also probably understanding and sympathy for what's going on in our communities. Let's explore how it is crypto is woven into the everydayness of our existence, how it reshapes community lives and power relations, and how the Philippine perspective can enrich the global scholarship on digital futures. So on behalf of the college, I'm warmly welcome you, and I look forward to the insights from this collaboration and also to more scholarships of this sort. Maraming salamat. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dean Diosa. For everyone who are here, we are being recorded and this will be uploaded in the CMC YouTube channel soon in the future. So let's keep the conversations going and we'll go straight to our first presentation for the day. So this symposium brings together international and local scholars to explore digital currencies and how they intersect with informal economies, mobile technology infrastructures, and community formations in the Philippine context. For our first speaker, we have Dr. Stefan Kuhn, is a filmmaker, video artist, and associate professor at Aarhus University, working across cinema, art, and ethnography. He explores alternative infrastructures and survival strategies in today's uneven socio-technical worlds. Combining experimental ethnography, STS, and fiction, his works appropriate emerging technologies and the aesthetics of DIY networks and video games. His films and installations have been shown at major venues, including the Berlinale, Axioma Institute, Kunsthaus Gras, and the Photographers Gallery in London. So to present to us the overview of the social life of crypto research project, please welcome Dr. Stefan Kuhn.
So where do I best stand here maybe?
The mic is very low.
Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me? Maybe a bit, maybe a bit. Okay, so first of all, thank you so much for the invitation. I'm very, very happy to be here. And yeah, to just give you a bit of context before you're gonna hear more about the Philippine perspective on this topics, I just want to introduce you a bit to like kind of our general research project in which Jonalu and I are collaborating. So the social life of crypto is actually a 3-year research project that we're conducting at Aarhus University. And it asked the question about like kind of like our idea is to like kind of look at the use of cryptocurrencies from the margin, from like kind of a bottom-up perspective. No, so it's an anthropological, it's an ethnographic project, meaning that we're interested in actual use cases of crypto. Can I have my first slide, please? Yeah. So the questions that we started out with from this project is how have people at the margins of financial and technological power integrated cryptocurrencies into their everyday informal economic practices, and what communities, social practices, and imaginaries have formed around them. So this is a 3-year research project that investigates these questions at 3 different field sites. One is Cuba, where I'm doing my field work. The second one is the Philippines, where Jonalu is conducting fieldwork. And then we have another colleague who works in Kenya. So these are like kind of the 3 field sites. Yeah, we're also like kind of engaging in like kind of arts-based research. Nestor Serre, who is here as well, is like the artist in resident in the project. Yeah, and so as you can see from like kind of the choice of like kind of field sites, we're trying to look at cryptocurrencies at places not where these technologies like kind of have originated, no, and where they like kind of dominate the political discourse, like in the US, but where they're like kind of used on the ground and where they have like kind of a particular economic impact, no. And we're very interested, or we want to look at these like kind of 3 like kind of global South like kind of use cases, also because the crypto world is full of like kind of promises that are like kind of very much like kind of directed towards like kind of the global South. No, you probably all know that Bitcoin started out with this like anti-establishment libertarian idea of like kind of wrestling the power over money away from the US, no, from the dollar. Crypto's promise was like kind of to bank the unbanked, no, to like kind of give access to like kind of financial infrastructures to people who have been formerly excluded to them. to make remittances cheaper, no? Like Western Union from the get-go was like kind of one of the hate objects, no, of like kind of Bitcoiners or other cryptocurrency like kind of advocates. No, so these ideas with altcoins and Ethereum, no, there was also the strong idea to like kind of democratize speculation, no, to like kind of give the means to speculations also to people who maybe cannot access like kind of the stock market, no, so there's all these like kind of promises floating around the cryptocurrency space of different forms of like kind of financial inclusion, no, like kind of in the form of like kind of an alternative like kind of exchange network, no, for example, to make remittances cheaper, accessing means for like kind of saving, no, for people who don't have banks, who don't have access to like kind of banks or bank accounts, and also like kind of democratizing like kind of speculations, no? But we're interested in what is actually, what's actually going on with these like kind of promises, no? Do they really fulfill, does crypto as a financial technology really fulfill these promises or not? These are kind of the questions this is the perspective where we're coming from. Next slide, please. Yeah. Why did we choose these field sites, Cuba, the Philippines, and Kenya? I think what we see as like kind of a shared condition between these three countries is the histories of financial exclusion, and economic volatility. No, as you know, also in the Philippines, a large percentage of the population is still unbanked in the traditional sense. Obviously, we have like kind of a new fintech, like Gcash, like digital money payment platforms coming in. No, so this is also a question. No, for us, what does being unbanked mean nowadays? And what we also see at all our field sites is that cryptocurrencies have been very much adopted as a pragmatic tool and not as an ideological project so much. No, so whereas in the US, it has particularly Bitcoin has started out as this very ideological project, no, like kind of even in the very first like kind of mined block in the blockchain, no, there is this like kind of hidden message about like kind of the big bank bailouts after the financial crisis, no, so Bitcoin started from this very ideological, anti-state, anti-government, pro-libertarian position, no, and whereas like kind of in the global north, we could say it's still very much like kind of a speculative financial tool. No, we're interested in like kind of what are actually the pragmatic use cases that we can like kind of observe on the ground in our field site. But then what contrasts these three field sites is that they have like kind of very different state regimes and very different that they're marked by very different financial infrastructure. So we're looking at this like kind of similar emergence of crypto practices in everyday economies. Next slide, please. Cuba we chose as a field site because basically it's basically the country that probably most perfectly epitomizes the promises of crypto, no? Because it's, as you probably all know, and what becomes very salient at the moment, no, is Cuba is since the 1960s completely cut off from global financial systems because of the US economic embargo, right? So Cuban people don't have access to international bank transfers. They don't have like kind of bank accounts, no ways to like kind of move money. Even like digital payment platforms like Zelle or PayPal are like kind of blocked because basically all financial transaction, global digital financial transaction, even from, for example, Spain to Cuba, always reroute in some way via American banks, no, or the American financial system, which means that the US still has the power to like kind of completely block that, no? So that means Cuba, in theory, would actually be like kind of the perfect use case for non-state money like Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies. And we were like kind of wanted to look at like kind of, does it really have an impact on the ground, no? Cuba is also quite interesting in the sense that it has a very omnipresent state sector, but that frequently fails to meet everybody's everyday needs, no? So we're also interested in like kind of how is crypto incorporated in like kind of the informal economy, no? Do people who run small businesses in Cuba actually use it for sending or receiving remittances? Do like kind of digital workers use it for for receiving like kind of payments from abroad? Like kind of, does it really provide an alternative financial infrastructure? Yeah. And then Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies have always been like kind of very much promoted as this hedge against inflation, no? And it has also been used like as this in a lot of places, no? Like Venezuela and Lebanon, no? So Bitcoin, as you probably all know, is designed as an anti-inflationary currency. It has this it has this capped limit of 21 million coins, no? So there's this ideology or idea or myth around it being like almost like a digital gold, no? Like kind of an anti-inflation, a deflationary currency, no? So we were interested again in like kind of this promise of like kind of a deflationary currency. What kind of an economic does it have in impacts of high inflation and monetary disorder, as we saw it in Cuba. The Philippines we chose as a research site. Yeah, first of all, because it has such a high cryptocurrency penetration, no, and because it became the largest global market for NFT games during the 2021 boom. Actually, Axie Infinity, this play to earn crypto blockchain game that was also very popular in Cuba, was actually one of my first points of connection to cryptocurrency. And I think for a lot of like Filipinos, that was also the case, no? And then the Philippines is like kind of also still an economy that is heavily like kind of structurally dependent on remittances, no? And then again, this promise of like kind of cryptocurrency being this like kind of smarter and cheaper payment rail towards remittances. Our question was, is that actually the case? Do people really use it for that? No. And then the Philippines also has like kind of very consistently high crypto wallet ownership rates, probably also connected to the Axie Infinity boom, no, that like kind of exposed a lot of players to that new financial world, no, and like kind of gave them a reason to open crypto wallets. And still like kind of also a large part of the population that is still unbanked. And Kenya then also has a very large and resilient informal economy, no? So again, this question, informal economy, when informal economies meet like kind of a global non-state financial infrastructure, what happens? Like kind of what is like kind of the uptake, no? Kenya is also very much like kind of a digital labor hotspot. It has quite a booming tech startup sector. And we particularly choose Kenya, because Kenya was one of the first countries where mobile phone-based money transfers were like kind of started with M-Pesa. That started in the late 90s, when the Kenyan telecommunications company Safaricom noticed that a lot of their customers were actually using airtime credit, like phone credit, as some kind of currency. For example, sending like kind of phone credit to the provinces, to their family, where like kind of people would then like kind of resell it, no? So it was this like kind of digital money in Kenya started as this like kind of bottom-up thing where people, yeah, basically made airtime credit a currency, and then the telecommunications company basically decided to actually, yeah, that's what gave them this idea of like kind of digital money. So because of this prehistory, we thought Kenya would also be an interesting field site to see how digital money and crypto, like kind of where it intersects. Next slide, please. Yeah. How do we do this research? We are 3 researchers, no? Me doing fieldwork in Cuba, John Aluo in the Philippines, and our colleague Samuel in Kenya. And we're doing like kind of immersive ethnographic fieldwork. So we all had like kind of 9 months of fieldwork on site. And we try to do both offline participant observation, going out, speaking to people, going to crypto conferences, trying to see actual and study actual use cases. But also we try to do the same thing online, like kind of being present in the digital places where cryptocurrency use is discussed, Telegram, Discord, all these like kind of places. We try to do a lot of qualitative interviews, like kind of to really understand people's rationale behind the economic decisions of whether to and how to use cryptocurrencies, and to also understand like kind of the social imaginaries, the dreams and the ideas that people kind of connect with it. We also try to like kind of engage with like kind of multimodal elicitation technique. So what we've often done, for example, is really sit down with people with their phones in hand and like kind of having them talk us through their actual use. The financial influencers, for example, they are consulting on YouTube. The news groups, therefore, or the accounts they're following on Twitter. The last transaction they've made on that like kind of digital wallets, no? So all of this was obviously very interesting data for us, and we try to like kind of really gather these data and discuss these things in situ, no? Like kind of with people engaged with their devices. And then obviously we also looked at like kind of documents, no? So we try to like kind of follow the local discourse around cryptocurrencies. Bitpinas obviously was also like kind of an important platform to understand like kind of the discussions around crypto here in the Philippines. The same goes for independent journalism in Cuba, but also obviously we're interested in like kind of the changing legal regulation and the position of the state, no? That is also very much in flux, no? And I think one of the big ironies of crypto is that it started as this like kind of anti-state ideology, and now you have the president of the United States and the president of Argentina issuing their own meme coins, no? So this is also where we where we have arrived now in these years of research, and this is also has become a big question for us, no? How has the relation between the crypto world and the governments, the global governments, has changed. Next slide, please. Yeah. Our research design, no, because we have these like kind of 3 field sites, it's comparative. So we really want to, in a good ethnographic fashion, compare our results across these like kind of 3 field sites. No, to make this comparative, we try to like kind of come up with like kind of some comparable like kind of sampling matrix or strategy. No, so we try to like kind of really recruit interlocutors that that vary across some theoretically and empirically determined social axes that we like kind of thought of beforehand. No, so we thought we want to like kind of get a wide diversity in terms of age, gender, quite difficult because it's still like kind of very much like kind of a male dominated world, no? Location and also IT proficiency. And yeah, to get like kind of a great diversity within our research participants, our initial idea was also that each of us 3 researchers has like kind of 2 different field sites, one more metropolitan. So we all decided that we're going to do fieldwork in the respective capitals, no, in Havana, in Manila, and in Nairobi. And then we all choose like kind of one more provincial sites to also understand if there is like kind of some internal like kind of differentiation in like kind of IT uptake or like kind of access, no, to also the digital infrastructure that powers crypto, no, and in what sense maybe there's also still infrastructural hurdles for people to enter that world. No, that means in Cuba, I've also tried to spend time in Matanzas, in like kind of a provincial capital. Jonalu, as he's probably going to tell us, worked a lot in Bcall with the Bcall blockchain community, and Samuel in Kenya also spent considerable time in the Kibera slum outside Nairobi, where there's like kind of different cryptocurrency, like kind of uptake initiatives. We all try to like kind of find 10 to 15 key research participants at each of these 2 field sites, internal field sites in the countries we worked on. And yeah, we tried to like kind of purposefully sample participants for further interviews across like kind of these axes of diversity that we defined. So we said that we like kind of set for us as a goal that each of us should interact during these 9 months with around like kind of at least 40, 50 people to really get like kind of a wide set of like kind of experiences. We also, before we went into the field, we co-developed like kind of our interview guide and also a participant observation guide. So we like kind of try to define what is the things we like kind of really want to look at, what are like kind of our specific focus, what are we like kind of interested in. And we were like kind of during these 9 months of fieldwork in a constant process of like sharing field notes, sharing our interview transcriptions, memos, like kind of first insights. We had regular Zoom calls once a month. And also this possibility of joint field visits that which brings me here now. Next slide, please. I mean, the project is still very much ongoing, no, and we're just in the process of like kind of writing up. But I just wanted to like kind of share some like kind of initial insights and ideas with you, and I think we're gonna hear much more later on, also from Jonalu. The first thing that really surprised me a lot is that our field sites were actually much more connected than we thought. No, like I mean, it was designed as a comparative project with like kind of very very different cases with very different political and social context. But it ended up actually being much more connected than we thought. No, so I met Cuban Axie Infinity NFT owners who had scholars in the Philippines. Samuel in Kenya got very close to like kind of a Bitcoin maximalist community, and one of their founders basically connected me with a Bitcoin maximalist in Havana who was basically running the same education platform, and they were connected via like kind of a global Bitcoin NGO that provides like kind of teaching materials. And so I met via this research in Kenya, I basically met a whole subset of people, a whole like kind of Bitcoiner community in Havana I hadn't even heard before. So there were actually all these like kind of very interesting connections that we didn't really expect to see before. Another really crucial insight that we had quite early is that it's actually socially a very fractured internal landscape of like kind of particular communities. No, so I think particularly in the Kenya and in the Cuba field side, we got to meet a lot of like kind of Bitcoin maximalists who were very critical about like kind of other like kind of coins or cryptocurrencies, no, and who really like kind of distantiated themselves from them. No, so there is also this like kind of internal differentiation between like kind of different cryptocurrency tribes. No, and then coming back to this question of the unbanked and of like kind of fintech, we also found that there's actually still very limited use case for cryptocurrency, because fintech, no, platforms like Gcash, digital money, has actually what we think like kind of solved most problems that crypto sets out to address. No, like remittances have become much cheaper via Gcash or other platforms compared to, for example, Western Union. No, so that actually leaves speculation and new forms of digital labor, no, like being an Axie Infinity scholar, as one of the like kind of biggest use cases that we found. And then we also found that a lot of like kind of the initial anarchism around like kind of cryptocurrency has also given way to some kind of pro-regulation pragmatism. Next slide, please. Yeah, just to finish up, the local case studies that we initially like kind of settled on, where like kind of that we at all the 3 field sites wanted to look at like kind of the experiences of small scale investors and traders. No, how do people try to like kind of make money with crypto, no, by some forms of like kind of small scale speculation. We discovered this whole Bitcoin NGO sector, no, where like kind of rich crypto whales in the US actually pump lots and lots of money into local initiatives in the global south, so that they onboard shops or like kind of new members. There's like kind of whole alternative education systems where people give like kind of Bitcoin courses online. There's diplomas. So yeah, this Bitcoin NGO sector was a really discovery for us. Also, a lot of money from rich Bitcoin whales flows into so-called circular economies. And we studied these in Cubera, in Isla de la Juventud in Cuba, and hopefully also in Boracay here in the Philippines, where like kind of, basically Bitcoin donors or investors like kind of funnel money into these places to create, to onboard like kind of shop owners so that they accept Bitcoin. So this is also like kind of a tourism, incentive. This is modeled after this idea of like kind of Bitcoin beach in El Salvador, no? And there's this whole tourism economy around places where as a Bitcoiner, you can go and like kind of spend your Bitcoin, no? And this idea, so there's this performative enactment of Bitcoin as money, no? Even though it doesn't really have much of a use case in these places, there's this performative like kind of use to it. Yeah, then there's play to earn and digital labor arrangements, no, around the X-infinity economy that we looked at in Manila and in Matanzas, and the Bitcoin blockchain economy, which is like kind of one of Jonalu's case studies, no, where we're looking at this like kind of pro-regulation pragmatism, no, how do these what do these crypto currency communities do to actually find some like kind of state acceptance, no, or to kind of integrate with like kind of the state and its state politics. Yeah, this is it so far. Still very much in progress. We have some articles already lined up. We also plan on like kind of really making this a book project at some point, but more to come. Thank you so much for your attention.
Bringing the mic back to Asian stature. Thank you so much, Dr. Stefan, for your introduction to the entire symposium. It's really interesting how Bitcoin or cryptocurrency is something that is put into existence by collective agreement. And, its existence is very much intriguing because its value is also brought forth by collective agreement. And so we've yet to see how this pans out for different sectors in society. So to present us ethnographic findings from the Philippines and how local communities navigate cryptocurrency adoption, we have Dr. Jonalu Labor, a postdoctoral fellow at Aarhus University School of Culture and Society, where he joins this team of scholars who investigate the social life of crypto. His fellowship is funded by the Independent Research Fund Denmark and examines the lived experiences of individuals who are part of cryptocurrency communities from the global south. Dr. Labor is a UP Scientist 3 and a full-time faculty member at the University of the Philippines Diliman College of Media and Communication, where he teaches undergraduate and graduate courses in communication research and comm theory. Presenting our very own Dr. Janelle Labor.
Thank you so much, Shine. Again, good morning, and thank you to the UP College of Media and Communication for the opportunity to present this research on cryptocurrency adoption in the Philippines. And over the next couple of minutes, I'll share initial findings from months of ethnographic fieldwork, examining again how Filipino communities transform digital currencies into survival infrastructure through deeply social practices. Next slide, please. So meet Hans. Hans is now 34 years old, but the first time I've met Hans, I think it was 31, 32, and he lives in Caloocan City. When I asked him about his time with Axie Infinity, a play-to-earn blockchain game that became a phenomenon in the Philippines during the pandemic, he told me this story about his friend's wedding. Now we're accustomed to reading about cryptocurrency in terms of speculation, market volatility, regulatory uncertainty, and the dominant narratives come from Silicon Valley, from Wall Street, from Western contexts where crypto represents either libertarian dreams of decentralization or risky financial gambling. But what happens when we actually examine how cryptocurrency works on the ground in global South context? What happens when we take seriously the social practices, the relational logics, the survival strategies of communities who've made crypto part of their everyday economic lives? So Hans' friends getting married because of Axie isn't a quirky anecdote. It's an entry point into understanding how Filipino communities transform speculative digital currencies into survival infrastructure, not by ignoring the volatility, but by navigating it through deeply social practices. So this presentation examines that transformation. During the peak of play-to-earn gaming in 2021, scholars in Hans Guild were earning 30,000 pesos per week. That's more than double the monthly minimum wage in Metro Manila. This wasn't exceptional. This was how crypto adoption actually worked in the Philippines. So the question isn't, can crypto change lives? Because obviously we know it did. The question is through what social logics, what relational frameworks, what cultural practices did this transformation happen? And what does it tell us about cryptocurrency adoption in the global south more broadly? So let me start with the research context. Next slide, please. So this presentation draws from months of ethnographic fieldwork across two sites in the Philippines. Stefan mentioned this earlier. So in Metro Manila, there's the National Capital Region. I work with gaming guild managers, traced crypto to fiat conversion practices, and studied Web3 entrepreneurship. Next slide, please. In Bicol, specifically in Legazpi City and Naga City, I attended blockchain conferences, interviewed developers building their own protocols, and documented government partnership with the Department of Trade and Industry, the DOST, and of course, the DICT. Next slide. So the driving question was, how do local communities navigate cryptocurrency adoption through existing social networks and culturally specific forms of collaboration? Next slide. So let me start with the first finding. Next slide, please. So let me show you what network-based entry actually looks like on the ground. Again, I'm utilizing Hans as a model, an actor, an informant, interlocutor in Metro Manila. So March 2021, pandemic restrictions are easing. Hans goes with a friend who's playing Axie Infinity on his phone. Hans asks about it, but doesn't pay attention at first. 2 months passed. By May, Axie is everywhere. Teams are selling 30,000 to 50,000 pesos. Hans wants in, but doesn't have that kind of money. So then his friend, the same friend from March, makes an offer. And this friend is selling teams and looking for scholars. He tells Hans, look for people who wants to buy teams and will split the earnings. So Hans enters not as a player, not as a scholar, but as a broker within a friendship network. He finds a buyer, then splits the profit. Hans saves those earnings, eventually buys his own team. And once he has his own team, he starts managing scholars. That's how he becomes a guild manager. Notice what's not happening here. Hans doesn't visit a website and click apply to be a scholar. He doesn't fill out a form. He doesn't submit his gaming credentials. There's no platform mediating this relationship. There's no formal job opening. Instead, entry happens through an existing friendship. Someone who trusts Hans enough to split profits before knowing if Hans can actually deliver. The friend teaches Hans how to buy and sell teams. Knowledge transfers through the relationship. Trust precedes participation. So this is entry through social networks, not through markets. The infrastructure is relational before it's technical. You need to know someone who's already in, and they need to trust you enough to bring you in. Now, let me show you how the exact same logic operates in a completely different context, provincial Bicol. Next slide, please. In Bicol, a different starting point, but the same logic applies. Harvey and Ismael, in a co-working space, tinkering with blockchain technology together. Their first meetup in 2019, they said, fewer than 10 people attended over pizza and beer, talking about Bitcoin. But look at the growth trajectory. By 2022, they're launching the Bicol Blockchain Conference with about 200 participants. In 2023, there were about 400 participants. In 2024, we were in a cinema in Ayala, cinema in Legazpi, with university partners and government representatives. This isn't infrastructure building through deliberate relationship cultivation, or this is infrastructure building through deliberate relationship cultivation. Next slide, please. ISMA says the backbone of Web3 is the community. In typical platforms, the backbone is technology infrastructure, the servers and the algorithm. Users are on the platform, but in the Filipino crypto context I'm documenting, community is the platform. It's not added as you have a product. It's the foundation that makes everything else possible. Harvey and ISMA's blockchain development exists because they co-work together, ran boot camps, cultivated government relationships, held monthly meetups. When ISMA says community is the backbone, he means it literally. Without a developer network, there's no bootcamp. Without the bootcamp, no blockchain gets built. The community isn't built on top of the crypto infrastructure. The community is the infrastructure that makes crypto work. Next slide, please. Knowledge circulates differently here than in typical markets. In market logic, you guard secrets. Information becomes power. Information asymmetry is power. But in these networks, knowledge flows as shared infrastructure. Hans, for instance, trains scholars for a week before they earn anything, investing in capacity building, training scholars who he presumes would stay loyal and bring others. Harvey, on the other hand, in Bicol, runs blockchain bootcamps in Bicol, teaching smart contract even through graduates, which might eventually be a competitor of its own company, SparkMind. Harvey and Isma builds regional capacity, and they said that this would eventually lift everyone in the region. In Manila's YGG Pilipinas, Bianca, the owner of Metaversity, tests the curriculum, okay, an informal way of, again, recruiting people to join her in this metaverse work. Okay, through her network on Saturdays, she has partners that give time to the learning process. She gives early access, and of course, she believes that trust would enable iteration eventually. So across gaming, development, and entrepreneurship, the same pattern. Knowledge doesn't circulate through markets. It flows through relationships where teaching first sustains the system. And this makes infrastructure relational. Individual success depends on collective knowledge sharing. Next slide, please. So there are three convergent patterns in how people enter and learn: network first entry, community-based scaling, and knowledge as commons. And these aren't site-specific adaptations. They're consistent social logics operating regardless of whether you run or you are in urban NCR or provincial Bicol, whether you're gaming or developing, whether it's formal or informal. But these relationships aren't just about knowledge transfer. They structure how economic value operates. So the second convergent pattern, next slide please, is speculation as survival infrastructure. Next slide. Now, let me show you why I call this speculation as survival infrastructure and why that phrase isn't contradictory. At peak in mid-2021, scholars earned about 1,500 SLPs. SLP would be the token that acts as a reward in playing Axie Weekly. At 20 pesos each, that's 30,000 pesos per week. Not per month, per week, right? Imagine the money back then. The minimum wage in Metro Manila was 13,500 pesos per month. A scholar playing 2 hours daily earned nearly 9 times that every single week. And this isn't pocket money. This became the primary livelihood. Hans told me about one friend who got married because of his Axie earnings. And of course, you could use this to plan for a future. It wasn't possible before. From the outside, this looks like gambling. SLP crashed from 20 pesos to nearly zero, casino level volatility. But listen to Hans. He said, if they saved it and waited for high exchange rates, it would be like being an OFW, an overseas Filipino worker. OFW income sustains millions of families. It's not gambling for them, it's survival. And earnings weren't just individual. Remember the splits, scholars supported families, managers reinvested, money flowed through networks paying rent, food, pang Starbucks, medical expenses, and even enabling weddings. And this is why I say speculation as survival infrastructure. Yes, crypto is volatile. It's also infrastructural, systematic, relationship-based income generation at scales that transform material conditions. The speculation is organized to meet survival needs through collective risk distribution, and that's what makes it infrastructure. Next slide, please. A crucial question. If scholars earn 30,000 pesos weekly in SLP tokens, how does that become actual money for rent or for weddings? Hans walked me through it. SLP from Axie goes to a Ronin wallet, then to MetaMask, then to Binance Exchange, converts to USDD stablecoin, and finally to pesos via banks or GCash. 6 steps, 6 platforms. Each has fees and failure points, yet this happens thousands of times daily. Here's what's significant here. There's no official SLP to peso mechanism in the country. No regulatory framework authorizing this. And this entire pathway exists in the gray zone, but it works. GCash absorbs conversions. Banks process transfers. Nobody's arrested yet. Money flows. Hans calls it farming, harvesting, agricultural Philippine metaphors for complex blockchain conversion. And the complexity is invisible because regulatory ambiguity is irrelevant here. So this tells us crypto adoption happens without regulatory clarity. Ambiguity might enable adoption. This the state, of course, isn't absent in the process. You have Gcash, and of course, banks are regulated. But crypto flows through the existing infrastructure without explicit authorization. Governance through ambiguity, they say, not permission or prohibition. Next slide, please. So let me show you how value distribution works and why these percentages matter for collective risk distribution. Hans, again, splits 50-50 on his personal team. He could do a 70-30 or an 80-20, extract maximum value from scholars with no capital. But he doesn't. Why? Because he said everyone should feel like it's worth it. It's not about profit maximization. It's about relationship maintenance. It's fair treatment that keeps scholars loyal, consistent, to bring friends. So the 50-50 split is for infrastructure maintenance. Guild teams split 60-40. Scholars get 40. Scholars will be the players. Okay. Hans as a manager gets 20%. The owners of the entire guild gets 40%. The manager's stake is the smallest. He's enabling the relationship, again, not extracting maximum value. So there's collective risk distribution, owner's capital, scholar's time and skills, and manager's coordination. All of these things get compensated proportionally. These splits aren't market determined. They are negotiated to make everyone feel the arrangement is sustainable. So the percentages are relationship maintenance mechanisms that let speculation function as survival infrastructure. Next slide, please. So the third convergent point and pattern would be state ambiguity, which Stefan mentioned a while ago. So state ambiguity enables these conditions. Next slide. In Bicol, state ambiguity becomes enabling through active relationships. Look at Isma's sentiment here, emphasizing different narratives. What does government support actually look like for crypto, at least in Bicol? DTI, or the Department of Trade and Industry, co-hosting the Bicol Blockchain Conference, not just attending, but also co-hosting. DOST is incubating Web3 projects. DICT is participating in ecosystem calls. This isn't regulation. It's not policy. It's relationship building that enables local experimentation. Regional government agencies support blockchain initiatives without waiting for a national cryptocurrency policy or law. This is governance through collaboration, not regulation. Next slide, please. In NCR, a different manifestation of the same ambiguity happens. Remember the pathway I mentioned earlier. Okay, remember the conversion process. Each step navigates a regulatory gap. There's no, again, official SLP to peso conversion. The central bank, or the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, hasn't authorized cryptocurrency. But Gcash, one of the country's largest mobile money platforms, absorbs these conversions. Banks process the transfer. Binance, now Binance is back, operates. And when I asked Hans about regulatory barriers, he mentioned minimal fees, automatically deducted, no regulatory hurdles because functionally there weren't any. And this is governance through benign neglect. The state doesn't facilitate, but doesn't prevent, okay, these kinds of dealings. Existing infrastructures absorb crypto flows without formal authorization. And this might be a model for, crypto. Anyway, so two different models. Next slide, please. Same outcome. In Bicol, there's active collaboration. The regional agencies of DICT, DTI, and DOST, they co-host conferences, they provide incubation, and they send reps to ecosystem calls. Even the Bicol University has a space for crypto in one of their buildings. Mechanism is relationship-based. ISMA and Harvey cultivate partnership over the years from 2019 onwards. The result is legitimization. The blockchain conference takes time, okay, and takes place at a cinema with DTI funding that event as a co-host, lending government credibility to all these undertakings. But still, there's no national crypto policy. The central bank hasn't authorized crypto as a legal tender. Regional agencies act without waiting for the central Manila, pragmatically enabling innovation rather than waiting for regulatory clarity. In NCR, again, there's benign neglect. There's no government partnerships, or perhaps Bit Philippines can update me about this. There's no DTI Manila acting as a co-producer of a guild meetup. Instead, existing regulated infrastructure like Gcash and banks absorbs the crypto flows without explicit authorization. The 6-step conversion every transaction is technically regulated. But then again, crypto flows through the platforms regulated for other purposes. Navigation through infrastructure gaps happen. There's also opposite approaches, active collaboration versus benign neglect, but the same outcome. Both operate in regulatory ambiguity. So this challenges common assumptions. We hear crypto can't scale without regulatory clarity. But this research shows clarity might constrain adoption. If the government formally decides on the SLP to peso conversion, it might prohibit it. If DTI Manila had to authorize DTI Legazpi, okay, to again initiate a regional initiative, there might not be any in the future. So by maintaining ambiguity, by not deciding, the state creates space for practices to emerge and normalize. By the time anyone thinks of regulation, thousands depend on the income. By the time someone questions blockchain conferences in Bicol had already 3 annual events. So I call this regulatory pragmatism, governance through ambiguity rather than explicit permission or prohibition. Communities don't need clear regulations. They need enough ambiguity to build infrastructure through relationships rather than by waiting for formal authorization. Of course, again, the state isn't absent in the process. It's present through DTI in Bicol, GCash regulation in NCR. But that presence maintains ambiguity rather than resolving it. And this enables, again, local experimentation. Next slide, please. So we've seen 3 convergent patterns, right? Network-based entry and knowledge sharing, speculation as survival infrastructure, and state ambiguity as enabling condition. Now, let me show you how the underlying logic that ties all these 3 things together. And I'm being more theoretical here. Next slide, please. In Filipino psychology, pakikipagkapwa refers to treating others as kapwa, as fellow human beings, as shared inner selves, not as separate individuals. It's a relational framework where the fundamental unit isn't the autonomous individual, but the person in relation to others. Pakikipagkapwa structures how people enter cryptocurrency networks through existing relationships, not anonymous markets. It shapes how knowledge circulates as a shared resource, not a competitive advantage. It determines how value gets distributed through relationship maintaining splits, not maximum extraction. It influences how futures get determined as collective uplift, not personal accumulation. So this isn't crypto adoption despite Filipino cultural frameworks. This is crypto adoption through Filipino cultural frameworks. The technology doesn't determine the social practices. The social practices reshape what the technology means and does. Next slide, please. So let me show you how pakikipagkapwa operates. This is my last slide in practice. So this isn't abstract theory. It's lived relational logic shaping everyday decisions. When Hans trains scholars for a week before they earn anything, he's not being irrational. He's operating under a different economic logic in which relationship maintenance is more valuable than short-term profit. The scholar who feels invested in stays longer, plays consistently, and recruits friends. In another context, when Harvey builds blockchain infrastructure so developers don't have to leave, he could hire anywhere and guard secrets. Instead, he teaches, runs boot camps, and builds local capacity, even knowing that graduates might compete. Keeping communities intact matters for him more than company dominance. Nobody explicitly says, I'm following pakikipagkapwa for me to emerge in crypto. It's really lived relational logic. How people naturally organize economic activity within Filipino cultural frameworks. It shapes decisions without being consciously evoked. And this is why cryptocurrency works here in the Philippines differently. Same technology, but social practices reshape what it means and does. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Labor. A couple more presentations in, and I might just save my first 30,000 pesos to invest in cryptocurrency. Anyway, it is fascinating to see how there is some form of coexistence between the reality of its ambiguity and volatility, but at the same time, some form of financial stability or some form of security when you have this financial gain that you experience through engaging with cryptocurrency. So now let us go to how cryptocurrency becomes more accessible through our handheld devices, as our next presentation contributes insights on polymedia cryptocurrency engagement through mobile technologies and how such technologies mediate and shape cryptocurrency community practices. This next talk is a collaborative work involving Dr. Labor and fellow scholars Dr. Randy Solis and Mr. Christian Samonte. Dr. Randy J. Solis is a professor in the Department of Communication Research and chair of the Graduate Studies Department at the UPCMC. He earned his PhD in communication from the School of Journalism and Communication at the Chinese University of Hong Kong. His recent works are on mediatization, sexuality, children, migration, and political communication, which have appeared in the Chinese Journal of Communication, the International Journal of Communication, the Asian Journal of Communication, the Journal of Children in Media, Media Asia, and the Plaridel Journal. Their collaborator, Mr. Christian J.C. Samonte, is a research manager at That Global View, specializing in AI-driven and technology-enabled consumer insights. He brings over 8 years of experience across academia, marketing communications, consumer insights, and research agencies. He holds a Master's of Arts degree in speech communication from the University of the Philippines Diliman. His work explores how AI, comm technologies, gender, and politics shape public discourse and decision-making. He has led numerous qualitative, quantitative, and mixed method studies, bringing rigorous evidence-based thinking to organizational strategy. Representing the group, we have Dr. Randy Solis from the Department of Comm Research. We have Mr. Christian Samonte from That Global View. Thank you very much.
Do not worry because you'll hear from Randy after me. All right, so good morning, everyone. My name is Christian Samonte, and we're pretty much excited to discuss with you. Hold on. Yep. Our research on polymedia crypto engagement, how mobile technologies shape cryptocurrency communities in emerging communities. Next slide, please. So the Philippines present a remarkable case study for digital innovation. Mobile phones have enabled social participation among young Filipinos, with mobile phone penetration reaching around 95% and widespread adoption of social media. Mobile devices have become the central hub for communication, social interaction, and crucially, economic participation. The high mobile penetration rate combined with Filipino enthusiastic embrace of social media has created fertile ground for cryptocurrency adoption. This makes mobile devices the primary gateway to digital finance in the country. Next slide, please. The Philippines has emerged as a key player in the global cryptocurrency economy, driven by several unique factors. And as Stefan and Janelle mentioned earlier, that the country has actually large unbanked population seeking financial alternatives. Second, the heavy reliance on remittances from overseas Filipino workers makes faster, cheaper international transfer highly appealing. Thirdly, the tech-savvy youth demographic readily embraces new financial technologies. Ultimately, a supportive regulatory environment fosters innovation. And these factors have created significant opportunities with with opportunities in the blockchain and digital finance sectors, thereby positioning the Philippines at the forefront of digital financial inclusion. Next slide, please. However, this digital financial revolution isn't without any challenges. While mobile technologies empower users and democratize access to cryptocurrency markets, they also introduce significant risks. Low financial and digital literacy rates leave many users vulnerable to exploitation. Cybersecurity threats, including hacking, phishing attacks, pose constant dangers to inexperienced users. And additionally, regulatory ambiguity creates uncertainty in the market. And these challenges are particularly concerning for new or underinformed users who may not fully understand the risks associated with cryptocurrency investments. So our research our research centers on one main question. How do mobile technologies and social media platforms function as actants in cryptocurrency adoption networks in the Philippines? And to answer these comprehensively, we developed three focus sub-questions. Number one, what are the demographic characteristics and technological usage? Sorry, please go back to the previous slide. Thank you. What are the demographic characteristics and technological usage patterns of Filipino cryptocurrency participants? Number two, how do multi-device strategies and platform complementarity enable different aspects of cryptocurrency engagement? And number three, what challenges and opportunities emerge from mobile-first cryptocurrency adoption in emerging economy contexts? And these questions guide our exploration of how technology, society, and finance intersect in the Philippine cryptocurrency landscape. Next slide, please. To answer our question, we actually use a different theoretical framework. So one is actor network theory developed by Latour, where it treats human and non-human elements such as mobile phones, crypto platforms, apps as equally influential in shaping social and technological networks. This helps us analyze how these diverse actors interact to form distinct patterns of cryptocurrency engagement. Second is polymedia theory, as proposed by Madiano and Miller, explain how users strategically navigate multiple platforms based on social, economic, and practical considerations. And together, these frameworks actually illuminate how Filipino crypto users make deliberate choices about which technology to use and which specific, for specific purposes, creating interconnected communication ecosystem that facilitates cryptocurrency activities. Next slide, please. We employed an exploratory qualitative design using interpretive phenomenological analysis to understand the lived experiences of Filipino users with mobile-based cryptocurrency activities. Our study included 30 participants, ages 20 to 50, representing diverse roles including traders, miners, developers, and community leaders. We used purposive and snowball sampling to reach the cryptocurrency community. Semi-structured interviews lasting 60 to 90 minutes were conducted in participants' preferred local languages between May and October of 2024. The study actually received Institutional Review Board IRB approval and adhered to strict ethical guidelines. We analyzed the data using Braun and Clark's six-step thematic analysis approach, entrusting trustworthiness and rigor throughout the research process. And to discuss the findings, let us welcome Dr. Randy Solis.
As this is a tag team effort, allow me to join Christian in presenting particularly our findings of the study. So our findings reveal three key themes about Filipino cryptocurrency engagement. So we go to the next slide, please. First, we identified a diverse range of crypto actors, including individual traders and investors, community leaders, miners, content creators, and blockchain developers, as somehow Dr. Janelas already discussed earlier. Multiple role engagement is common, with 72% serving as individual traders, 52% as investors, and 21% holding community leadership positions. These participants, predominantly young adults from various Philippine cities, demonstrated varying levels of cryptocurrency expertise, from newcomers to experienced traders. They're affiliated with local communities such as the Bicol blockchain community and trading groups, including the Global Miranda Miner Group. Second, we discovered a sophisticated multi-platform ecosystem where different mobile applications serve distinct but complementary roles, creating an integrated environment for cryptocurrency activities across various social media and trading platforms. Next slide, please. Our analysis also reveals sophisticated dual device strategies among Filipino cryptocurrency users. Participants deliberately choose between mobile phones and laptops based on specific activities and contexts. Findings reveal sophisticated multi-device strategies where 97% of participants use mobile technologies for the mobile phones for continuous market monitoring, while 79% employ desktop or laptop computers for complex trading analysis. Mobile devices excel at continuous market monitoring, quick response capabilities, and location-independent access, which is essential for staying updated while at work or traveling. As one participant explained, I can do trading anytime and anywhere with mobile phones. Mobile devices enable what participants describe as ambient market monitoring, which is continuous low-level awareness of market conditions integrated into daily lives, daily activities, without requiring dedicated attention. This represents a fundamental shift from scheduled trading sessions to ongoing market participation. On the other hand, desktop and laptop computers enable intensive analysis modes, characterized by multi-screen workflows, complex chart analysis, detailed research, and sophisticated trading strategies requiring sustained focus and computational power. Desktops and laptops are reserved for complex analysis, detailed backtesting, multiple screen workflows, and intricate trading execution. This strategic device usage demonstrates contextual computing, where successful cryptocurrency participation requires not just trading knowledge, but a sophisticated understanding of how to leverage different device capabilities for optimal market engagement. Next slide, please. The convergence of mobile devices and social media has fundamentally transformed cryptocurrency participation in the Philippines. Our participants identified specific platform roles. Telegram, at 72% usage, provides secure channel for community engagement, private discussions in alpha groups, and trading signals through bot integration. X or Twitter, at 69% usage, serves as the primary source for market intelligence and real-time updates from influencers and projects. Also at 69% usage, Discord functions as a technical hub for in-depth discussions, project collaboration, and community governance. This multi-platform approach exemplifies polymedia engagement, where users strategically navigate various platforms to meet diverse needs. Mobile technologies' affordances of portability, convenience, privacy, and ease of use have lowered barriers to cryptocurrency participation while enabling sophisticated and integrated crypto activities. Next slide, please. To conclude, this study highlights how mobile technology has significantly expanded cryptocurrency participation in the Philippines by lowering barriers to entry and enabling continuous engagement. We also observed the rise of platform-specific practices, demonstrating how Filipino users creatively utilize various technologies for diverse crypto-related purposes. That said, there are still significant challenges, including infrastructure gaps, security risks, and the pressing need to improve digital and financial literacy. Internet connectivity instability emerges as a fundamental constraint affecting all aspects of mobile cryptocurrency engagement. Participants, mostly from rural Bicol as compared to more developed Metro Manila, report missed trading opportunities, interrupted transactions, and community communication disruptions due to network failures during critical market moments. Social media scam prevalence, particularly on platforms with less sophisticated user verification systems, creates constant vigilance requirements that can exhaust attention and reduce engagement efficiency. Participants must continuously evaluate information credibility, verify community member authenticity, and protect against various fraudulent schemes. Finally, effective cryptocurrency regulation should consider the sophisticated technological literacies required for safe participation, including understanding of multi-device security, platform complementarity, and community verification processes. Educational initiatives and consumer protection measures should address these complexity requirements. Ultimately, cryptocurrency adoption in the Philippines is more than just a technological shift. It's a cultural practice shaped by everyday needs and local contexts. The way Filipinos integrate mobile tools with crypto use reflects larger trends in digital adaptation and financial innovation across emerging economies. Our references are in the next slide, but it says airplay, and the last slide says thank you to everyone. Thank you very much.
It made it. The references slide. Thank you, Mr. Samonte and Dr. Solis, for that presentation. It's very interesting to see. Again, we are seeing how people make things work. Okay, when the structures don't seem to include them in certain things, people make things work. And it's very interesting to see how crypto practices in the Philippines shows how it pans out in the global south, where internet infrastructure can be very challenging. And as it has been mentioned, transactions can be disrupted and there could be conflicts in terms of access. So today we were supposed to have Attorney Florin Hilbay, but due to work-related scheduling conflicts, he is not able to make it. But still, we have the opportunity to talk about the possibility of regulatory frameworks and community tensions as we move towards our last presentation about the possible legal issues that crypto may face in the Philippines. Presenting this is Attorney Maria Andrea Celes, who earned a Master of Laws in Legal Tech and Commercial Law from the Hillary Rodham Clinton School of Law at Swansea University, Wales, in United Kingdom. She was awarded a merit for her 2 final research projects on AI and blockchain entitled A Critical Analysis of Negligence and Defect as Applied to Artificial Intelligence and Robotic Use, and the Impact of Automation on the Existing Product Liability Framework under English Law. And the other one is an examination of the Law Commission's reports on digital assets in light of the current English legal framework on property law and rights. Prior to undertaking her postgrad studies, she served for 6 years as a public attorney in the Public Attorney's Office. She currently works as corporate counsel for Southern Luzon and ICOR Philippines. Friends and colleagues, Attorney Celes.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the University of the Philippines, especially UPCMC, and our international, and also Aarhus University. So again, good day and welcome to my contribution to today's symposium on the social life of crypto, Philippine perspectives. For today's topic, I will be sharing my insights on blockchain, the technology enabling cryptocurrencies, and how it is being utilized in the Philippines through existing and proposed legislation, specifically Senate Bill 1506, the Cadena Act, and the 2025 SEC Memorandum Circular Number 4, or the SEC Rules on Crypto Asset Service Providers. So hopefully this may flesh out Stephen's and Junel's findings that there is a move from anarchism to pro-regulation on cryptocurrency. But the specific samples I will present is from the Philippines and the United Kingdom. Okay, so next slide, please. Yes. Our first topic of discussion is Senate Bill 1506, or an act mandating the full disclosure of government transactions through the establishment of a digital budget portal to enhance transparency, accountability, and public participation in the Philippine budget process, other known as the Cadena Act. So the version we will discuss is the version passed on the 3rd reading by the Senate, and it is accessible through the QR code projected on the screen. So the file available for everyone to access is The same file uploaded on the Senate's official website as of December 15, 2025. Next slide, please. Okay, so this bill has 6 salient provisions, and we would be focusing our discussions on sections 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, and 15. Next slide, please. So, what is the cadena? So, cadena is a Tagalog word for chain. However, the bill also uses cadena as an acronym for citizen access and disclosure of expenditures for national accountability. Under the law, the bill, the cadena shall serve as the official and publicly accessible portal for all public budget data required under this act. So it seeks to implement transparency, accountability, and good governance in the management of public funds through future-thinking digital budget disclosure systems. So in addition, this publicly accessible portal also serves as a user-friendly platform. Otherwise, people will be left deciphering cryptographic hashes in investigating the reported budget data. So for the unfamiliar, hashes and cryptography will be demonstrated in a later slide. So next slide, please. So the 8 features, the law provides 8 features of the cadena. However, these characteristics may be summarized into D, T, I, and S. So distributed, transparent, immutable, and secure. Distributed means that there is no centralized server which contains all the data recorded. Instead, all computers, databases, or nodes which are included in the system all hold and store the data simultaneously. It is transparent because everyone who has access to the blockchain, whether permissioned or permissionless, can access and review all data stored at any time. It is immutable because once recorded on the chain, the data cannot be altered, edited, amended, tampered, or deleted. And it is secure because of cryptography and validation protocols. So the most prominent consensus mechanisms used today are proof of work and proof of stake. So next slide, please. So through this, if anyone can access the link, this link is for the SHA-256 application. So the SHA-256 application shows us an easy demonstration of how hashes are produced. So when you enter data into the box provided in SHA-256, it immediately produces an equivalent hash. So when any data, a symbol or number placed into the box is changed, you will also see a change in the hash. So that's like a short demonstration of how hashing works and how cryptography and the secure system in blockchain works as well. So if you have time, you can access this link. So next slide, please. So what is the right to erasure and the right to be forgotten, and how and why is it relevant in blockchain technology and the Cadena Act? So under the EU Data Protection Act, the right to erasure or the right to be forgotten is the right of a data subject to erase personal data without undue delay. This right is appreciated as a contradiction to the blockchain's immutable characteristic because it is impossible to make changes or erasures on a blockchain. In the Philippines, we have a similar right granted under Section 16 of the Data Privacy Act of 2012. So under the Cadena Act, a solution that lawmakers propose to reconcile the contradiction between blockchain technology and the right to be forgotten is through the data minimization principle. So under this principle, only data and information necessary, relevant, and proportionate to the purpose of disclosure or processing shall be collected, recorded, and published. Nevertheless, this may only be considered a partial solution, considering that personal data, specifically the names and addresses of those participating in the bidding and the budget process, will still be collected, processed, and published in the cadena. A suggestion to address this incompatibility may be to include a special waiver for the right to be forgotten in all government contracts for data processing related to the Cadena Act. Next slide, please. So, what does the bill cover so far? So, under its current iteration, budget reports of LGUs are not required to be reported and uploaded into the cadena. This may potentially be because of budgetary constraints, but the bill nonetheless encourages LGUs to adopt similar systems to the cadena to improve transparency in local government budget practices. This provision, if enacted, may, however, result to another migration of corruption practices, as what happened in the aftermath of Belgica versus Executive Secretary Ochoa in 2013. In that case, the Supreme Court declared as unconstitutional the PDAF and CDF. And following this case, corruption migrated from Congress towards national agencies such as the DPWH, as exposed in the flood control scandal cases being investigated currently. So next slide, please. So disclosure of public data. So the law includes an exhaustive list of documents that must be published in the cadena. So I won't belabor this point, but for the next two slides, next slide, please. These are some of the public documents that are required to be reported under the bill. So it's very exhaustive, and it also indicates the specific government office that is responsible for sharing and uploading that data into the system. Okay, so next slide, please. So under Section 5 still, how long is the period of disclosure for the list provided earlier? So the bill requires the report to be disclosed within 7 working days. And it is reckoned, the counting of the 7-day working period will be reckoned from the date of approval. So if there is a penalty, is there a penalty if the disclosure is not made within 7 working days? Yes. So the first offense is reprimand, and second offense is dismissal from service. So these penalties that I'm sharing now are only the administrative penalties for the government employees who fail to disclose the required reports within 7 working days. However, next slide, please. Not all public budget data are required to be uploaded. So the exceptions are those connected with national defense or security, and those that may violate provisions of the Data Privacy Act of 2012. But like I said earlier, I think potential violations of the Data Privacy Act would already be minimized because of the implementation of the data minimization principle, as discussed earlier. Next slide, please. Okay, so this Section 9 just says that all the data collected are property of the Filipino and held in trust by the state. So, next slide, please. This is more important because the purpose of the Cadena Act is to really serve as a public database for all our budgetary reports and processes. And eventually, if there is an error or is there a discrepancy seen in the reports uploaded, everything will eventually lead to court. So that's why the bill also provides a special section indicating the evidentiary value of the Cadena record. So this is broad enumeration of the requirements, but next slide, please. What it just means is that litigants or plaintiffs who want to pursue a case for either Graft and Corrupt Practices Act or something else, they must provide the source code to the court if they would want to present the data acquired from the cadena so that it would be admissible in court. Okay, so so again, like I said, penal clauses, the ones I mentioned earlier are administrative penalties, but the bill also provides penal sanctions, meaning jail time and fees and fines for people who will violate the proposed bill. So let's move on to the second half of our discussion. So this time it's about SEC Memorandum Circular Number 4, the SEC rules on crypto asset service providers, and its supporting regulation, SEC Memorandum Circular Number 5. So copies of both memorandum circulars, next slide please, sorry about that. So copies of both memorandum circulars can be accessed in the QR codes flashed on the screen. So the versions provided are those appearing on the SEC's website as of January 25, 2026. So I'll have everyone a moment to take a picture if they want to. Okay. So next slide, please. Yeah. SEC Memorandum Circular Number 4 has 5 salient provisions. Next slide, please. SEC Memorandum Circular Number 5 has 6 salient provisions. However, today's discussions will prominently focus on Memorandum Circular Number 4 because of time constraints and the relevance as well to our topic of the social life of crypto. So, next slide, please. So should cryptocurrency be regulated? So this touches on some of the findings of Stefan and Janelle in their studies. So before we scrutinize the memorandums I just mentioned, let us first discuss some important theories on the relevance of cryptocurrency regulation. So I am sharing these concepts because at the time these memorandum circulars were first introduced, there was some resistance from the crypto community in the Philippines about its alleged restrictive provisions. So in 2023, Robert Stevens published the controversial article, Crypto is Not Property. Stevens saw Bitcoin as mere information and proposed that it should be treated as such. He added that cryptocurrencies are only used for insidious purposes such as terrorism and trafficking. Thus, if any damage should be attributed in the use and distribution of crypto, the public would not be negatively impacted by such laws. However, this point of view is now rejected entirely by the British Parliament with the enactment of the Property Digital Assets Act of 2025. So these examples I'm citing is with the United Kingdom. So under the Property Digital Assets Act, the law states that, or English law states that, a thing, including a thing that is digital or electronic in nature, is not prevented from being the object of personal property rights merely because it is neither a thing in possession or a thing in action. So like I said, in addition to what Stephen was saying earlier, we could say the law works as a safety net for its users when crypto doesn't perform or operate as promised. So next slide, please. So to further provide some examples, in the United Kingdom, the first court case related to crypto assets was the case of AA versus persons unknown. So it was the first case which recognized Bitcoin as property under English law. So a random of 9,500 US dollars worth of Bitcoin was paid and traced to a wallet kept in a Bitfinex trading platform. So the insurer in this case sought for a property injunction against the crypto wallet. So the court, in granting a property injunction, said that a crypto asset such as a Bitcoin are property because it is definable, identifiable by third parties, capable in their nature of assumption by third parties, and having some degree of permanence. So the next relevant case is the judicial saga of tulip trading. So from 2022 to 2023, 8 High Court and Court of Appeals decisions were released about this dispute. The main controversy for this case is the retrieval of $4 billion worth of Bitcoin, allegedly stolen from the wallet of a person alleging to be Satoshi Nakamoto. So most of the rulings adopted the appreciation of the common law that Bitcoin is property. Nonetheless, in the 2023 decision, Tulip Trading versus Bitcoin Association noted the rivalrous characteristic of crypto tokens. So the indication of rivalry is important because it is the first case that emphasized and explained this unique characteristic of crypto assets. So which means for a transferable thing to be rivalrous, the holding of it by one person necessarily prevents another from holding that very thing at the same time. So because the holder cannot double spend their Bitcoin such that it is rivalrous, the crypto asset can be said to be capable of assumption by a third party. So in the same case, the court also declared that the developers are also fiduciaries, in that the essence of that duty is a single-minded loyalty to the users of Bitcoin software. And essentially, it ordered the developers of Bitcoin to introduce a code that would allow the retrieval of the alleged $4 billion worth of Bitcoin. So next slide, please. So another notable example on cryptocurrency litigation is Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX. Sam Bankman-Fried was the CEO of the now defunct cryptocurrency derivatives platform FTX. So 3 years ago, he was heralded by Fortune magazine as the next Warren Buffett. But a year later, he went on trial in October 2023 after being charged with 7 counts of fraud, conspiracy, and money laundering. He was later found guilty on all counts after it was proven in court that he used secured crypto deposits in FTX for the benefit of an insolvent corporation, Alameda Research. Next slide, please. So what is the relevance of the examples to SEC Memorandum Circular number 4 and number 5? So these examples all demonstrate that security threats and financial fraud are universal challenges to crypto assets. And in the event of crypto wallet seizure, hacking, and scams, crypto asset holders seek the assistance of courts in enforcing and protecting their property rights. These examples also highlight the importance of a law or regulation that protects consumer rights in the face of hacking, fraud, and data privacy. So Section 3 of Memorandum Circular number 4 specifically addresses this need in enumerating the 5 rights of crypto assets consumers in the Philippines. So as enumerated there, in the Philippines, we have 5 recognized rights, which is the right to equitable and fair treatment, right to disclosure and transparency of crypto assets and crypto asset services, right to protection of consumer assets against fraud and misuse, right to data privacy, and right to timely handling and redress of complaints. So just to tie in with the example of Sam Bankman-Fried, the number 2 right, the right to disclosure and transparency of crypto assets and crypto asset services, and the third right to protection of customer assets against fraud and misuse, can be easily applied. So in the case of FTX, what happened was, at the time, the coin holders were already asking for their deposits to be withdrawn. FTX withheld that right to these customers. Okay, so sorry. I only have 1 minute left. So, examples such as these address that the law may be a partner to crypto asset holders when we need to protect and enforce our property rights, regardless of our location in the world. So, last example would be, can you please go to slide 31? And so, another regulated action provided in the memorandum circular is the marketing of cryptocurrencies, crypto coins, and NF blockchain-based games. So the question is, what happens if the inducement, endorsement, or solicitation is coming from an influencer or personality based in another jurisdiction? So this is a consequence of extraterritoriality of crypto and blockchain technology, including the dissemination of information related to this technology. So what it just means is that in the example of Haktua Coin and CryptoSu, these are blockchain-based projects which were heavily marketed and promoted by influencers residing in foreign jurisdictions, specifically the United States. So in the event of, for the Haktua coin, the value dropped exponentially, almost 99% after the coin was released. And into the issue of CryptoSu, they were able to acquire investments from Logan Paul's followers. But despite their promises, CryptoSu wasn't able to be released into the public. It never really was an actionable NFT-based project. So no one really earned their money as promised in these two projects. So in that case, if a Filipino resident invested in the meme coin, Haktua coin, and CryptoSu, they may be able to file a case under SE Memorandum Circular Number 4. So that's just the point of it. But, if they would be charged or eventually convicted, that is another question to be solved by the court. So I hope my talk today provided certain insights on this topic. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Attorney Andrea. And at this point, I would like to invite the speakers to the front, please, as we open the floor for the open forum. Just as you're thinking about your questions, I would also like to share some of my thoughts about how through today's presentations, we see how cryptocurrency, even as a technological innovation, has deeply rooted social dimensions. And that as much as we are to study and problematize how the mechanism works, we have to look at the human connections and community-based practices that make it work and keep it working. So we have a microphone up there in the middle if anybody has questions to start the ball rolling. Yes. Please introduce yourself and what your question is. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Cheryl Soriano of LaSalle. So thanks so much. Really fascinating research. I guess I have several questions, but I'll narrow it down to two. I'm very curious about the communities that are forming, but also in the context of, diba, Axie rose here, 2021, COVID, and then crashed. And the news about a lot of communities, families losing investments from Axie was high. And now I'm curious, is that just a global news? And is that discourse, did that discourse not seep through in the local community? So I'm curious about now, like looking at Janelle's slide about the growth of the community. I'm very curious about how that risk, that discussion of risk maps on to the continually growing community. Also in light of your crypto moguls are in jail, right? So because of particular reasons. So I wonder how much that discussion of risk maps onto the community discussions. And I guess my second question is really interesting, fascinating, different groups of people. You have content creators, you have community leaders, you have brokers. And I'm very curious about how value, power, and also risk is distributed across them. Do you see them as kind of equals, or is it forming a mini hierarchy within? So thanks so much.
Thank you, Cheryl, for that question. Would our team members from the Social Life of Crypto team would like to take that?
Okay. Thank you. That's a very interesting question, and I just want to give the mic to Geraldo to actually answer because he has the data. But I think what was a very interesting question for us across the field sites is exactly what you mentioned. Why do so many people stay in the cryptocurrency world despite all the scams and all the volatility and all the danger? No, and maybe you can just give a quick summary of what like kind of our findings was regarding that question.
Yeah, what's fascinating, I guess, is that it's being treated as a game. So failure is in fact part of that game, right? So the resolution to continue and to learn from it. In fact, there are a lot of players who said that I lost a lot, but it's part of it. I have to learn from it. I have to continue doing it, right? And maybe it's because of the gaming culture that they were in prior to them being in Axie, or them continuing to say other crypto platforms, eventually owning guilds. That is that source of pride that they have learned from all these things, right? But it's not really, it's a majority psyche. But some of them actually said that, yeah, there were times when I was depressed, right? I thought that I really lost a lot. But then again, I am in this community, and because that's the emerging and the dominant discourse, then I'm pushing, right? Moving forward. Yes.
Yeah, and I think for traders it's the same. No, there's this constant process of like kind of rationalization. No, like kind of losing money is part of the learning process. No, I think what we saw in general were like kind of a lot of like kind of coping or rationalizing strategies. No, like kind of to like kind of reduce this idea or to cope with this with the constant volatility, with like kind of a dynamics that is basically out of your hands, no, and like kind of trying to reclaim it as a process of like kind of education, learning. Yeah.
At one point I was trying to connect it to gender because again most of them are males, and this kind of discourse that because we are less emotional we can cope and we can move forward. Those kinds of discourses, statements emerge from my informants.
Interesting. Thank you very much. That's a good place to start, actually, the conversation. Is there a follow-up question to that, or perhaps an entirely different question from the floor that we want our speakers to further elaborate? Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Romeo Peralta. I'm from the University of Santo Tomas. So you discussed earlier that the volatility of cryptocurrency and how it's kind of a accepted community value, that the community itself places value in the cryptocurrency itself. You recognize that. So I guess I wanted to ask, is the volatility something that you think cryptocurrency communities are planning to address, or is it something that they want to live with? Because you said earlier that a lot of cryptocurrency communities started with Axie, which was a game, and they believe that losing money or losing is part of the process of earning. So my question, yun lang po yung question ko.
I mean, you both of you probably also have data on this, no? But what I constantly saw is volatility is basically what creates the dynamics, no? I mean, volatility makes you lose money, but it also opens the possibility of one coin going to the moon, no? Of like kind of, it's a bit like a lottery ticket. Without volatility, you don't have the economic dynamics behind it, and like kind of you cannot make these like kind of quick and sometimes substantial games. So I think it's also part of the games where like kind of you can win, but you can lose big, but you can also win big. So volatility is, I think, crucial for the whole speculation and money making aspect of it. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think volatility is not something participants try to eliminate, but rather it is something that they actively manage. And in fact, volatility is actually part of the appeal of cryptocurrency communities because, at least for their perspective, it actually creates the space or the opportunity. So this is something that they could not really avoid volatility, but the development of strategies on how to perhaps manage the risks that comes with volatility is something that they are trying to do at this point.
And in terms of polymedia, the way they manage it is through the concept that we explored earlier, ambient monitoring. So it has become really embedded in like their everyday. So it's like it's an always on information and coordination and discussion. And that's what happens with the mobile technologies, at least from our studies perspective. There are like strategies to manage volatility, and it's part of the practice of crypto engagement. So
Thank you to our speakers.
I guess also, sorry, Shani.
Okay.
There's this constant hope na, I'll speak in Filipino, may mababa yan pero yun na yung pinakamababa. Tataas din naman yan eventually. So may ganong klase ng hope lagi. Yeah, because it's part of the
To
game.
go but up.
Yes. That's the term.
So if you reach rock bottom, there's nothing next to rock bottom than upwards. Okay. Just before I turn it back to the floor, I have a question of my own for our speakers here today. We've talked about volatility and the uncertainty of where our money goes and where it could go. We could lose it and things like that. So given the risks and challenges associated with cryptocurrency and that we've discussed the legal frameworks that there could be in addressing such uncertainties, I'm curious if you're aware of what the opinions of the crypto community is on the possibility of regulation or the possibility of having security infrastructure set to sort of regulate operations, not necessarily to mediate, because the core of cryptocurrency is to be decentralized, but just to ensure that transactions will not be used for fraud or trafficking or abuse.
Yeah, I'll go first and then probably Andy.
Yeah.
I guess SEC Memorandum Circular Number 4 and 5 are already in place in order to address those concerns. So specifically, SEC Memorandum Number 4, it enumerates characteristics or qualifications before corporations may be listed as a crypto asset provider here in the Philippines. So if you don't meet those qualifications, you're not allowed to offer cryptocurrency or blockchain-based assets into the market. So I think that's the first level of protection. However, it also goes into the nature of humans themselves. So sometimes even if you're qualified, you were able to present the proper requirements mandated by the SEC, you really can't stop people from making something bad out of something good. So, there's always a possibility of fraud in anything, even in simple 5-6, simple pangungutang, simple loans in everyday life. So I think it's more of a human defect at this point. I think fraud is really a product of human defect in how we interact with each other. But like I said, it's the issue only with regulation is that it miles away from how we interact with each other. So whenever one scam is done or conducted, regulation is like 2 years behind it always. So, law always asks us a catch up into everything. So it's really a failure, not only here in the Philippines, but worldwide. So
Punitive rather than preventive, right?
Yes. So I'm curious, what does the community think about that?
Well, yeah, well, we have some members of the community, but I will not name names. Yeah, but the sentiment really is that she's correct in saying that there's always this idea that there are always bad actors anywhere, everywhere, right? So there will be bad actors in crypto, okay, and it's just part of the ecosystem. Okay. And as long as you, in a sense, as they, in a sense, perform things dutifully, legally, right? Normatively, in the community sense, then they are actually just doing fine.
Okay.
I think one bottom-up strategy, again, from a lot of cryptocurrency users that I've seen across the field side is that a lot of transactions are actually not really like kind of on chain. A lot of like cryptocurrency transactions are not actually conducted as the technology like kind of would allow it, or as it's like kind of planned. No, so the Bitcoin started with this idea of that like kind of a transaction on chain runs without any intermediator. No, but that also means that once the transaction is through, there's no way to like kind of undo it, no, because you don't have a bank or anyone as a mediator, no. But I feel how a lot of people actually use cryptocurrency across the globe is that they actually do engage with crypto via trusted mediators, no, like exchange platforms like Binance. So a lot of actually transaction in crypto, investment in crypto, like kind of the money basically stays with the trusted exchange that is also like kind of regulated, but it's not actually really on chain. Also, I think this is somehow like kind of a workaround. And this also shows us that a lot of people actually don't want that like kind of initial idea of Bitcoin, no, of like kind of no intermediation, no, people do want trusted intermediators, no, and I think this is also what frames the social around crypto, no, that there is all these like kind of new intermediators that people use and need and draw on, no, to make transactions work.
Yeah, so it largely operates on trust in the system, which is
well, when the pitch was Bitcoin is a trustless technology, but people still need that trust and want to facilitate that trust.
Thank you. So I guess that would be difficult for a person with trust issues. But anyway, I think we can entertain one or two more questions from the floor. Yes, sir.
Hi, good morning. Anyway, regarding risk and one of the entities that's come in, when there's a risk involved is the insurance companies. Are like the government? There's movement in the government about in the insurance industry. Is there some movement going on, going into Bitcoins and cryptocurrency?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Honestly, in the United Kingdom, in the smart contracts involving cryptocurrencies, crypto assets, insurance is very fundamental. Insurance, consumer protection. So it's all embedded in the smart contract so that in the event, for example, aside from insurance, consumer rights, as well as arbitration. So those are the three important components for every commercial contracts in English law. However, in the event that there's fraud or there's damage or there's any issue arising from a transaction that is paid through cryptocurrency or another crypto asset, the insurance is the risk bearer for any injuries. But here in the Philippine setting, I'm not really sure, but globally speaking, those are the three fundamentals for every commercial contract: insurance, consumer rights, and arbitrability. So, yeah. So, international speaking, yes, it's an important component.
Although we've yet to know how it's going to work in our context.
Yeah, but the issue here in the Philippines, as well as seen during the flood control scandal, is that once the government were trying to get liability from the insurers or of some of the construction projects, a third person or entity is trying to prevent the government from collecting from the insurance agency themselves.
Who are these third party?
They're very prominent in the news. You don't need to mention names, but it's really seen here in the Philippines. So I think it's really a structural problem in the Philippines. But when you're speaking from a global perspective, insurance is a very important component in all commercial contracts.
Perhaps that's going to be a different symposium with a different set of research activities. Are there any other questions from the floor? Yes. I think this would be our last question. Please state your name and affiliation. Thank you so much.
Good day, I'm Kim, and I'm a research student from the University of the Philippines Open University. And I'm currently conducting a study on cryptocurrency with the goal of informing and enlightening young people like me. As part of my research, I have observed that many individuals in my age group perceive cryptocurrency as a form of gambling, an easy money job or sideline, or a high risk activity that may lead to financial loss. With this in mind, I would like to ask, how should cryptocurrency be responsibly branded and communicated to younger audiences? And what advice can experts provide to help them engage with it in an informed and cautious manner? Thank you.
Thank you. This is a generational question. Young people asking for
this
advice.
is more of a practical advice. I think for Gen Z, we should be more mindful on how we get our information, specifically for crypto investments. Because like what I said in the examples I mentioned, Hawk Tuwa Girl and Logan Paul, if we follow people or celebrities that are commonly associated with scams, then most probably the products or the projects that they will endorse to us are rug pulls and scams as well. So it's really a matter of discernment and practicing discernment on whether or not this person that I'm listening to is credible enough to lead me into credible projects.
Yes. Dr.
I guess from a communication research perspective, the quintessential looking into the information sources and of course the mindsets of these would-be players, okay? And then what do you do with the information that you have essentially based on your scan? Those kinds of research would matter, I guess. And well, if you're a firm believer that this generation is in a sense more, lured into this kind of a business, then probably that generational concept as well you have to include in that design, right? Yeah. And of course the us being Filipinos, right? The this idea of us earning a little just to get by, this kind of a concept you have to factor in as well. Yeah. And lastly, I guess there's this in my research there are a lot of Gen Zs who shy away from traditional education, right? Because they can earn a living by just plainly looking into, say, YouTube videos and earning, say, crypto, or learning crypto, and then they can be big based on their KOLs in those videos. So those kinds of things you have to perhaps put together in order for you to study this phenomenon well.
Because I teach strategic communication here in UP Commerce. So, and you talked about branding. I think there are many ways, like I've just learned this as we do these discussions and this course. But like, for example, considering it from a generational perspective, like maybe the generation is what we call the woke generation, and maybe the ideological origins of crypto is something that appeals to this particular generation. You may also take a look at from a cultural perspective, the communal aspect of crypto, as Janelle emphasized in his presentations. So there are many entry points, no? A cultural lens, a generational lens in terms of how you can brand crypto as in terms of its ideologies and democratized origins.
Yeah, and going to our point earlier that cryptocurrency, people who are in crypto doesn't really invest in cryptocurrency because they think that it's risk-free, right? That's the essential, like you, right? So they invest because the perceived risks outweighs the perceived gains that they have. So the more important thing that the younger generation should put forward in terms of information is that playing in the field of cryptocurrency shouldn't be blinded by the trust that you have, with the KOLs, but rather constant monitoring, constant understanding of who are the bad actors, and trying to veer away from those bad actors and making sure that you are connecting to the right people who are trying, to use actually who are actually distinct from those who are playing in the cryptocurrency, using scams, using phishing attacks, etc. So yeah, that's something that I could share as well.
Thank you to our speakers. As they would always say, don't invest what you're not willing to lose, because it's always a possibility. And as much as I would like to keep the conversation going, perhaps we can keep it going as the forum closes. So I would like to thank our speakers for their presence in today's symposium. I'm taking a photo. Okay, so I would invite our speakers to please stand, and we are taking our photo as tradition goes in UP Masscom.
After the photo.
Are we taking a photo with...
We can be defined by the...
Okay, so it's going to be a group photo with the audience. So please stand in front of the crowd so everybody can be seen in the photo. And find your spot, everyone, so that everybody fits. So everyone is present. Please find your spot. Sige, on your cue, Kuya Alex.
Lapit po sila sa kanan. More one. Palaban po. Ready, 1, 2, 3. Tapat, 1, 2, 3. Okay, last. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
As we formally close this program, I would like to invite everyone to please be seated as the chair of the Department of Communication Research closes our very insightful symposium for the day, Dr. Julian Baldo-Cabello.
I think there's no need for the closing, but anyway, thank you very much, Shine. I got a lot of answers to pre-existing questions, but I have more questions after the symposium. I guess that's a sign that the symposium is a success. I'm excited now to engage with my spouse, who has been into this thing for the longest time. I call him like the cryptic, which is I haven't really engaged any relevant conversation with him, which is unfair because he engages with me with my plants, ruffles, and fabric. So there you go. I like the idea of ambiguity. What's that? Like volatility, yet there is a structure. I like the idea that it's a collective effort in spite of the precariousness of the ground shaking. I like that. I like the community spirit, the Filipino spirit. So I'm excited about this thing. I am attracted to the idea of the scholar because as the scholar, like I am now interested in this from a safe distance. But there's also something about being a scholar under the wings of a manager that might not be a far off impossibility, as I am easily recruitable. Because I like the 50-50 split. I like the 50-50 split. There you go. Let's engage in conversations. It feels like this is about us as we experiment with many other alternatives about keeping things working. Thank you very much to our speakers, Professor Stefan, Randy, Janelle, Christian, and to Attorney Andrea, thank you everyone for your engagement. Magandang tanghali po sa ating lahat.
Thank you, Dr. Julian. Before we leave, we'd like to give some gifts and award some certificates to our guests for the day. May I call on Julian again for the giving of gifts? Giving of gifts? Gift giving to our to attorney Andrea and Christian. We'd like to give our tokens of appreciation for your participation in today's symposium. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And of course, we'd like to give our certificates to the speakers, Dr. Stefan, Dr. Labor, Dr. Solis, Mr. Samonte, and Attorney Andrea Celes. Thank you very much. It's like graduation. So, one person, one photo? Lahat na lang, sabay-sabay. Okay. So, let us give the certificates and take a group photo. May I call on Mr. Samonte and Attorney Andrea? So that we can have an official photo with all the certificates. Thank you, everyone. I have been Shine from the Department of Communication Research. Have a good rest of your day. Thank you very much. At 2 p.m., we have another event on arts-based research with our guests from Aarhus University. We would like to see you there at 2 p.m. here at the auditorium. Thank you so much.